Good morning. Good morning. What's happening, Joe?
Oh man, how you doing, Paul?
I'm ramping up, my brother.
Yeah.
I'm ramping up on this morning, on this wonderful morning. Ramping up. Energy's not like on that. It's like it's like that old Price is Right. I think it was a Mountaineer Challenge where it's like they had the prices like yodelay, 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 yodelay. So that's just that's just where my energy is right now, man.
Oh wow, I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah, I feel you.
How you doing?
My physical energy is great, but I skipped some of my routine this morning, so my mental clarity and energy feels funny. As we were talking about a minute ago, it feels a little vulnerable, but I'm here anyway.
Yeah, I hear you,
I'm here anyway, and it's a different state of energy than I'm used to being in, different mental space than I'm used to being in. So let's get this ball rolling. So welcome to Coffee with Paul and Joe and Paul. And yep, I've got my double black tea here.
There you go.
So we're here kicking around ideas that scare us mostly. I'm realizing that mostly what we do is talk about ideas that scare us.
Yep.
So we really want to create an impact. We want you to listen and hear what people who are really in the world of being change agents, coaches, people that have done a lot of our own work and are always helping people shift their perspective, where we're at in some of the topics that are meaningful in our lives and in our clients' worlds as well, too. So that's what we're doing here. And you might want to listen to this one today if you exist on the universe and you're curious about how the world is changing, because that's all of you. So here's what we want to talk about. So I have been thinking a lot personally around shifting gender dynamics and gender roles, especially in relationship. I know that I'm dating again, and I want to do it in very different ways. I don't want to be showing up with a lot of this performative and toxic masculinity that I have in the past, even though I've always been a very sensitive, loving, caring, good, emotional guy. These things infiltrate us, and there's certain roles that are expected, and I don't want to be in them anymore. And I want to find women who don't want to be in them anymore, but it's confusing. And what happened was this: I recommended to a client of mine who's also recently dating after a divorce to watch The Mask You Live In. And he watched it, and he just messaged me this morning. He said, "Man, it was great." I said, "Wow, okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it." He said, "But we need to talk about something." Because I still believe that women are conditioned to be attracted to hyper-masculine men. So I want to know how shifting out of the man box is impacting relationships and how it can impact me. Which had me bring that conversation to Paul this morning, and he jumped on it. So that's what we're going to talk about, is like, how are the shifting expectations between I might say masculine identifying people, feminine identifying people, how is that impacting relationships and attraction and love? And it can be any kind of relationship, but that's the one that seems most curious and juicy to me. Right? I'll shut up for a minute, Paul. Where are you at on this?
Man, I'm just like, I'm all in my gut with this one, man. Feel this in my hips too, all in my root chakra, my root energy center, which is interesting because that's the center for stability and support and provision, quote unquote, the masculine, the man trait, right? And actually it's interesting because just on a side note, when from a yoga perspective, the energy center, when that's off, that root energy center is off, people can experience back pains, hip problems, which is something a lot of men experience, which is synchronous. So when you brought this topic to me, what came to me is something called the Hermetic Principles. Have you ever heard of it? I
don't think so. I might have, but
one of our MKP brothers, Ivy, put it. He gifted this to me and opened my eyes. And there's a principle in it. It's like they're ancient philosophies, they're ancient methods, like the principle of mentalism, like all is mind. And there's a Hermetic principle around gender. And when you brought that this morning, what really popped out in my head was just this. How they describe this principle of gender is that now in our society, it's like bastardized. Or it's like, okay, this is a man, this is a woman, when in reality the masculine and feminine are energies.
Right, not genders.
Not genders. They exist in everyone. They
Right.
exist in everyone. Some, and the thing is there's a sliding scale. There may be men that have feminine characteristics,
Sure.
feminine traits. There's women that have masculine traits.
Right.
And there may be men that have a lot of masculine traits and women that have a lot of feminine. It's something that exists in everyone. And in our society, where I think this is a really powerful topic, is in our society, especially now with things shifting, more diversity inclusion, there's men and women, people of different backgrounds and origins in all sorts of high ranking positions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the men and the women and that role sort of shifting from that traditional, like, I am a man and I'm going to go out and get the meat and the food and provide.
Right.
And then the woman is, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to take care of the kids and cook.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, okay, the roles are reversed. And I feel like, people look at, if a man's home now and a woman's in the field, a man is like, oh, I'm being a woman. No. You're actually honing in on your feminine traits of nurturing and caring.
Right. Right.
It's a whole different dynamic and perspective that I feel like, and I'm going to speak for the men. I feel like the men that I connect with and work with, that can be a little bit of that could be a blip, that could be a disconnect, and them really settling into being in a partnership with their mate. That's
I hear you, man. So some of the things I hear in you, which is important to make a distinction around, is there's a difference between sex, which is biological,
yes,
gender, which is pretty much roles based in certain normativity that have been assigned to us by culture. Right? And then there's masculine and feminine, which are energies that play within us, just like many energies. But I would say that these are kind of like universal polarities, right? That are everywhere, whether it be human beings, whether it be animals, whether it be in nature, machinery. Everything has some sort of something on one pole, something on the other pole, and we like to classify those as masculine and feminine. Right. And it's been deeply connected to the way we show up, especially around gender, especially in this culture. And we keep things very black and white until the last, I'm going to say 20, 30 years, but really the last 5 to 10 years, it's been opening up and blossoming like a flower. The awareness of different energies and different gender associations and non-binary people that feel that they're not necessarily one or the other. You'd said that, there could be some men that are highly masculine, some men that are feminine, some women. I want to say that all of us have both and a lot of both. It's a matter of where are we on our spectrum naturally? And then what have we been cultured to perform into? And then at the end of the day, we're autonomous human beings. I think we have free will. So what do I choose to live into more and why can be something that's a choice as well.
Good call. Good point, man.
What I think really is necessary nowadays is some version of balance. Here's what I find. I can speak for myself. My client had that question, well, like, what about women? Aren't they conditioned to want hypermasculine men? I don't know if I agree. My response to him was, I'm not a woman. But I do talk to women and I understand a bit of what human beings want. And my belief is that some women will be more excited about, turned on by, partnered with hypermasculine men because they don't like what they see on the other end. They don't like when they see an unbalanced man who's too much in more of a, I want to say, receptive or feminine role, feminine experience of him. But they probably take balanced if they believe they could find it. Same for me. Like, I love femininity in a woman. I love when a woman is flowing and joyful and receptive and nurturing. Right. And if I couldn't find a woman that was balanced, because I want a woman who's balanced, I want a woman also will challenge my ass and speak truth and takes care of their physical body and like actually pushes themselves physically and with mentally and is trying to grow and expand in very kind of certain what people call masculine ways, right? But if I didn't think I could find someone balanced, I'm gonna go towards that more hyper feminine direction because I'm a little more conditioned to believe that's sexy and appealing, right? So I think the key here to me is if there's balance, then we all thrive. We all feel really good. And that's both within ourselves and in relationships. But it's really hard, and I find it really confusing, even for me. And I put a lot of thought and energy into these types of topics, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we need balance, but I don't know that there's that many really beautiful examples and role models of people that are balanced in the various energies.
Well, I don't know if there would ever be role models though, Joe, because it's like that balance is flowing, man. In my perspective, I feel like working with men now, there's a piece to men that has, and I'm gonna say, let me say, well, how do I want to say this? My perspective is the conditioning around masculinity,
Right.
and who a man is supposed to be,
right,
is something that impacts men and women. Because for men, it's like, well, oh, this is what I see here. This is, oh, I got to provide. Like, everything that you see, whether it's in TV, social media, it's like about like a man like taking charge and like, this hyper masculinity, like I'm gonna beat all these people, and like I'm gonna sweep this woman off her feet like James Bond with my gin martini, shaken not stirred. So it's like we get these messages are being fed, and then when you see a man that's like a household guy, there are these maybe unconscious or conscious chuckles like, oh, this guy, look at him in his apron cooking some cookies. Oh, isn't that cute and stuff? But really, that's a warrior, because he's taking care of, he's fierce and protected and making sure his family's taken care of.
Right.
I'm making some cookies so they're happy, whatever that is. There's a balance, and my perspective is, there's not a lot of areas where men could learn to settle into, okay, what is this within me? Because that's what it really comes down to. Who am I?
Yes.
My thing is like, look, if a man's like, well, I don't know, like, because I'm gonna speak for myself. When I was younger, man, I had the women in my life were mostly friends. I was like, oh man, and like anytime I want to push up a girl, oh, we're friends. We're friends. Meanwhile, the jock was getting the women. Like, damn, and I'll be like, man, I'm just a nice guy. Like, hey, hold on, man, you okay? Like, stuff like that. And I had to settle into that over my life. Like, yo, that's just who I am.
Yeah.
And when I noticed, like, I found my as I got on the journey for my purpose and mission, then more the masculine came out, because I'm like, yo, listen, I got to step my game up. And then I saw that there was an energy shift in how women perceive me.
Right.
There's still like the nice guy, but there was also like, yo, dude, where this fierceness come from? And I feel like that's the thing that men need to understand. Listen, when you're on mission, man, first of all, you don't give a shit about what women are coming at your gate, because you're on your mission. Second, when you're on your mission, women will be coming to the gate.
Yeah. Right.
And and again, and here I am. I'm going into men, women. But really, when you're exhibiting that masculine energy, the feminine energy is naturally going to come in. It's a yin and yang, man.
Right. And I want to take a moment. Yeah, I love this, because you're right. We are talking men and women. We're both men that have been in romantic and sexual relationship with women.
Yes.
So we have that lean, and I want to make it okay for us to talk about that lean, because it would be pretty inauthentic for us to talk too much about the other directions.
Right.
So I'm feeling you on this, but the thing that comes up for me, I'm listening to this, is almost like, I almost want to stop separating it as much. And
separating what? Like you mean
separating the two energies so much. Because let's say I am fulfilling a very hyper masculine, or I don't want to say hyper, but very masculine role, and I'm on mission, and I have intention about the impact that I want to make in the world, and I'm going after it like nothing's going to stop me. Right? I am, quite frankly, just penetrating the world with what I believe is right. Okay. Some might say that's very masculine. And for the most part, if a man is doing his work and he is deeply in mission, it's a very loving, nurturing, positive, generative energy or intention that he's putting into his work in the world.
Yes.
There aren't that many people who are really on core mission and purpose, aligned with their values, that really want to just dominate and abuse.
Right.
That want to put pretty much any person who's really on a big mission is like, look, I want everyone to know that it's possible for them to get healthy no matter what their economic status is, right?
Right.
I want everyone to know that at the end of the day, like, they're safe, and we're transforming the world because men are becoming more emotionally intelligent, and we're going to harm less. This is all not just protective, but it's all nurturing and loving and kind and nourishing. So there's this dance between the two energies that shows up when we're really aligned with one or the other.
Yes, man.
Right? Like
yes.
we talked about self-care.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I had to impose some masculine warrior yesterday to hook up my self-care. I've been flying too high socially, right? So I knew I needed some downtime last night. I live with two amazing people. They both had cool friends over, and it was like 7:30 last night. It was like, Joe, you need to go upstairs, you need to lock yourself, you need to read, and just be chill. And that was actually me enforcing boundaries so that I could give myself the nourishment I needed for my energy, right? So like, these are things that we can't really disconnect. And so that's why I want to talk about the balance of both. But my client's question still exists, man. It still exists. Are you and I still more drawn to and feel more comfortable and feel more safe and feel more masculine and happy with a very feminine, hyper-feminine woman? And are women out there who are heterosexual primarily drawn to these hyper-masculine images that they're conditioned with just as much as we are, right? So I know I opened up 7 or 8 cans there.
Whew, man, you opened up the labyrinth, man. God
but
damn.
there's still that big question of like, if I'm truly balanced,
right,
will there be attraction? And let's say there's already attraction. How will that impact a relationship long term if we're all truly balanced in this time of transition? Because still, I say all these things, and sometimes I don't know. I'm going on dates going like, well, maybe if it's co-creative, maybe if I'm not the one that needs to drive forward, maybe if I'm not the one who has to put the move on first, like, maybe that's more of who I want to be. Maybe that's more balanced in my energy. But then there's that question of like, well, is anything going to happen? Because what if we both talking good stuff but don't know how to live in that space yet?
Right. And what's the risk in even stating that? You know, like, hey, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. I know I want to do this. Oh hell, I'm gonna do it. You know, it's like I don't know. It's what comes. I mean, the question you're right still does exist. I mean, what comes up for me is that again, it's something. It's an internal awareness. It's knowledge of self. Like shit, man. Like, where do I want to be in this relationship? What are the things I'm feeling when I'm with this person?
Yeah.
What are the feelings that when I'm with this person? Do I want to? And I feel like that so context, I'm divorced. I'm a divorced man. I was married 10 years, in a relationship now. I've had some really toxic relationships. And looking back on it, I feel like those toxic relationships were setting expectations of who I was supposed to be instead of settling into who I am.
Yeah.
And I see that for men that are dating and like for you when you're saying like, especially as you're going, you're meeting different women, different partners. My thing is, how do they make me feel, right? Well, first of all, what am I feeling inside? Are they impacting that? And then when I allow them, how do they make me feel? Because I feel like when I can be in that space, I can allow myself to flow in between the two polarities.
Right.
So give me an example. I'm going to give you an example. So in my relationship, like there may be times where it's like, okay, look, man, I need to move forward with this. Like, boom, like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen. All right. And it's like,
where you take the reins a little bit and go, okay,
yes.
Let me take charge for a minute. Okay.
Yes. And I take the reins and I'm like, okay, listen, it's more the assertiveness, like being on focus, being on purpose. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going here. Hey, honey, I got some tickets to this concert. We're going here. We're going to do this. I got this nice restaurant. Boom.
Yeah.
Then there's that part where when I'm in a solid container, when I'm in a space with, or in a relationship instead of the word container, when I'm in a relationship where I can be okay with, okay, look, you know what? I'm struggling here. I need to let someone in. I need to let someone in. Do I feel comfortable letting that person in? Okay.
I hear you.
That's now I'm like, okay, look, honey, sweets, I don't know where I want to go here. I'm lost. And then that's when there could be this reciprocal energy transfer, and also the shift in the polarities, because listen, there may be something that my partner may be able to be assertive with. Now, if I'm able to sit back and be like, all right, baby, good, do you think? Okay, cool. Now as a partnership, we're both moving together. We just shifted in that moment. We shifted the energetics of the masculine and feminine. And then it's just like we can go back and forth. It's just like which face is coming forward in which person. And that's the big thing. Like there could be, when someone's like, well, I feel like the nice guys finished last. Well, is that what you learned? And what the hell is a nice guy?
Right.
Like maybe that's part of the thing of getting out of like, okay, I got to be a nice guy or I got to do this. No, you just got to be yourself. And I feel like being able to settle into whatever that relationship, the energetics within that relationship, then we can start to say, okay, well, you know what? I can sit back and be vulnerable. Or like, you know what? I'm hurting right now. I'm in pain. Or especially for guys, we're constantly on the hyper go-go.
Right.
I got to do this, worry, everything, superhero status. Yeah, grind, hustle harder. Okay, cool. What's the time when you got to settle back?
Right.
Can a man be vulnerable enough to sit in a bath and have his woman wash him or have his partner wash him? What those are the pieces, in my judgment, where men can have that growth edge where, okay, look, I'm going to let somebody in real quick. And that could even be other men, like a support group. So that's the thing to answer. And I don't know if that, I feel like I don't want to ramble, but I feel like that's how I would respond to the question. Like, wow, man, like, what's coming up in you? And then like, how are you able to be vulnerable and take in that feminine part to be nurtured so you can come back to the masculine and be assertive and be more on mission?
Right. Yeah, that's such a beautiful framing for it, and you were able to represent that idea of true balance so well in here. Are you with someone that, let's say, you're more masculine identifying or male identifying, and you're used to being more of that penetrative force, for lack of a better word, right?
Right.
Are you with someone that you feel has the strength of their own character and understanding of their own emotions, understanding of their own energies, that you can actually trust and surrender to step out of that role at times when it's the right thing for the relationship or for you?
Yes.
That's a power move in our soul. Like, I want to say it's a power move for your character, for your soul, and it's really hard. And I want to share this thing, and this is going to be hyper vulnerable for me. We've talked, I've been working on stuff around my body. I've been working on surrender. I've been working on relax and receive. I've been working on feeling more of my own sensation and self-love of the body, not just self-care. And so I committed. I'm like, I'm going to get a massage. I've gotten one paid massage in my life, didn't even like it. I was like, I'm going to get a massage. It's too much for me to relax sometimes, for my body to relax with a stranger touching me, whatever, right? So, I'm thinking, look, so can we see that picture, that guy up there? We can barely see it, but that's how I lived for a long time. This picture of me. And so my body being touched is still, women I'm dating, it's like, okay, well, that's part of the game. It feels great. But anyone else, it's still weird, very strange for me. So I went and I got this massage, and I let go of my resistance. I felt it. It felt nice. Eventually, probably about halfway through, I started to go, actually, this is kind of pleasurable. And then towards the end, I noticed just how loving and nurturing and caring the massage therapist really was. Like, just the way she was touching had so much like kindness and love in it. My hands weren't cold. She put these like hot gloves on my hands, and then when she was done, she like put this hot thing on my back and like turned the music up. She's like, lay here as long as you want. And just the way, she put the heating pad on, and then this touch was so subtle and so nourishing.
Mm.
I really felt myself melting into it and allowing myself to be moved by someone's like nurturing care.
Mm.
And I had a very cathartic moment of sadness. I recognize that I've been with women in relationships in my life who've wanted nothing more than to really nurture and take care of me. But
Mm.
I'm so often not really able or ready.
Brother, thank you.
And I certainly don't have the awareness to ask for it.
Mm.
And it certainly feels funny. The times I've tried to be like, all right, let me just kind of receive. I can notice these things show up where I'm like, no, I don't like this. No, I should take care of her. No, so all of this stuff was coming up, and I had this real depth of sadness going, all right, well, I know my most recent ex would have loved it if I'd learned to be more receptive, if I'd learned to get nourished, if I knew how to ask for the things that I really wanted
Mm.
for women to love me, right? So this
Mm.
was a big awareness, this was a big opening. I think it's directly connected to this idea here. As I learn to receive more, can I be actually more masculine because I can ask for the love I need? And can that positively impact a relationship? You better damn believe it. I always
Prove it.
want women I'm with to ask more for what they want or need. I always want that. Okay, so here I am wanting that and barely really knowing how to even allow it for myself, to notice it in myself.
Mm.
So this is, I think, a big awareness for me. It's like, how often are we not able to trust and receive and be in that more, what some might call the feminine energy role or feminine energy experience, to allow relationship to flourish, So that question that my client brought up is like, well, don't women want the hyper masculine? That's just the thing we do when we're trying to understand something. We try and limit the complexities. And what we're talking about here is probably one of the most complex topics out there.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be able to limit it or pin it down or figure it out in a 25, 30-minute discussion either.
Right.
But I know that I've been experiencing things where I'm allowing myself to play with both energies in a different way.
Mm.
And I'm believing it's going to empower healthier, more passionate, more exciting, more alive, more loving relationships with women in the future. So
Oh.
that's what I'm hoping for.
Oh.
That's what I expect.
Oof, man, can I just say, when you said you're being open to asking for support, I forget how you said it exactly, but it was like in that.
Yeah.
In that moment, my mind went to the men that kill themselves every year.
It's a lot.
A lot, man. And men are more, I don't know if the watchers or listeners know this, but men are more likely to commit suicide than women.
Yeah. What is
Especially,
it
I
like?
think,
7 out of 8, some
yeah.
or even higher numbers, something like that.
Yeah, it's extremely high. Originally, it was like high in the teens to 20s, and now they're finding those numbers are moving into the mid 30s, 40s. I don't want to laugh. I laugh a little bit because of the seriousness of it, just to kind of help me get through it. And that's the thing, like men being able to ask for support, like, hey, I'm struggling right now, or like, I just want to be held, man. I just like, and then like people could be like, man, stop being a blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm just like, the thing I want, and as men hear this, and then, men may have a reaction to just, hey, I just want to be held. But I want men for a second, think about this hypermasculinity. In every single superhero movie that you've ever experienced, maybe you didn't see it, but at some point or another in that film, the warrior or the main character is held and nurtured.
Mm-hmm.
Held and nurtured by the feminine energy. I'm thinking of Black Panther right now when he fell off the cliff, and all of a sudden they went to find him. Maybe a spoiler alert. When they went to find him, he was in the ice. His sister and his mother and his significant other helped nurture him back.
Right.
Community nurtured him back.
Ooh. So what I'm loving here is you're exposing that there's a particular moment in almost all heroes' journey where the hero is physically or mentally somehow disempowered and broken down, and there's something that represents the feminine showing up to integrate into him so he can come back and actually be the true warrior, the fighter, the one who provides and serves in this masculine way, right? And
Every
maybe it's
time,
not
Joe.
always, it might not be a woman every time, but it's some sort of feminine. I mean, look at like I wouldn't say feminine, but look at like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yoda's this 2'3" green old dude, which is like you would consider a lot less hyper masculine, right?
But Yoda whooped that ass and give you some wisdom in the same time.
Right.
He's got that nurturing. He sees something in another and he'll draw it and nurture it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Powerful. Right. I think maybe we continue that on the next one because that shit right there, that just like crack.
Right.
Watch it. Listen, watch the movie. Even like freaking Bruce, whoever. Matrix. Neo had Morpheus.
Mm-hmm.
Morpheus was exhibiting those feminine characteristics. Like, yo, I see something in you. You're the one. I'm gonna nurture you up, homeboy.
Yep.
That's what it is. Brother, I love this, man. I know, God, I know for us, like, especially, I just really value the time that we take to do this because I know we have our schedules, we have our things. And I think it's really relevant and important when we have these topics about real things because men, women, relationships, people get to hear this because it's something like we talked about before. The masculine and the feminine isn't just tied to a male and female.
No.
Okay? It's energies. As you said, it's sex, gender, and energies. It's different things. Now, Joe, anything else before we wrap up, man? You got some other stuff, man. Speak it.
No, it's just such a big question and such an alive question. You know, I want to just restate it again in a way. So if anyone's still listening here, they can think about it. Maybe it's just for me to think about this question of how do relationships change as gender roles and expectations and energy shift in our world towards more balance, towards equity, towards justice, you know, towards inclusivity and freedom for all. What does it look like if we're all really liberated and there's not a domination of one part or another of our spirit or soul or our emotions telling us the way we should be? Like, how do families, communities, intimate relationships transform? Such a big question that I don't think will be answered ever.
It's a journey, man.
It is. But anyway, I'm loving this too, and I'm appreciating your perspective and your take, and your experiences. And I think that if there's something to say here that without sounding too egocentric, is like, I believe there are men modeling and role modeling. I think we're doing it. I think both of us look on the outside. People meet us. It's like, oh, that's a masculine dude, right? I get that labeling all the time. I hear it all the time. Oh, so-and-so said you're so masculine looking. It's like, well, I've got a beard and I'm hairy. What can I do? But I like to wear black. But we're out there being balanced, I think. And as we grow and learn and develop, that's what's happening. And I think human beings are only going to get better. Relationships are only going to get better. Communities are only going to get better. But we get to struggle through the challenge of being in a transformative time. Yeah.
Blessings and thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Value, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Let's end this thing before we keep the love fest going. Right?
Yeah.
You want to wrap us up?
Yeah. So for anyone that's listening, for the people listening, the men listening, if you have other questions, you have comments, you have some things that, especially after seeing several of these episodes, you feel like, hey, I wonder what their take is on X subject. The emails for Joe and I have been going on throughout this video. Please reach out to us. We're more than what we are. We are open to having these discussions, and we're open to doing public speaking and working with leaders, men that want to embrace and touch on these different parts of their lives so that they can make a big impact in the world. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. And until next time.